Good morning. Welcome you to the July garden tour. This is a volunteer sunflower. This is planted in a chicken coop with a volunteer tomato plant. We got 2 tomato plants here, which these were just planted because we did not have enough room. Now if you come around back here, we got a volunteer tomato plant here that I staked up, a volunteer tomato plant there that I staked up, and then we got another plant that we started from seed this year, and that one has a tomato cage on it. We ran out of tomato cages, so we just planted we put stakes on the tomato plants that we did not have tomato cages for, all the volunteers. The raspberries are pretty much done, but we're starting to get some blackberries. Just a couple there, but should be a pretty good year for the blackberries. Now on to the main garden. We have a mammoth sunflower that's about 6 feet tall, and it is just about starting to form a head, the flower. Then we got our beans. There's a little bit of a path through here. You can't really see it just because they grow too far together. And we got our 3 pole beans. Now in the future, I'd like to do something like I did over there with the wood attached to the stake, because these are the same exact type of stakes. Just need to attach some wood so that the beans will grow up taller, because obviously they're too tall and started attaching to the fence. Here are our carrots. They went in a little bit late, so they're still a bit tiny. And then we have onions planted around them. And those are just bunching onions, but I'm not sure if they're gonna bulb or not. Then we have our 2 types of beets. We got a big sized beet the other day. There's a little bit of a smaller one, and then there's a couple bigger ones there. So those are about the size of a golf ball, maybe a little bit larger. Then we got our peas that are pretty much done, and then our celery that's not doing too hot. Just it's doing well, it's just not growing very much. Not sure if not enough nutrients or if I'm just being impatient. Not 100% sure on that one. Here are all the tomato plants. I think we have 20 tomato plants here. It's kind of hard to show on the camera, but here we've got our sun sugar, which are a orange cherry tomato. They're very sweet. And we have marigolds planted near them. We've got 2 sun sugars, which are this one and this one. And then we got an early girl over here. Let me see if I can get nice sized tomato. And there's one on this plant. Not too bad. And we got some Juliets there that you can see. There's a lot more. I'm gonna have to go back and pick them after this is done. But that's about it for the tomatoes so far. Just the early girls, Juliets, and the sun sugar that are fruiting right now. Here we've got our toothache plant. We bought seeds this year. Haven't really tried it before, but heard it's pretty good. And it's starting to flower. And here is some more marigolds that we planted from seeds that we harvested last year. Here are our squashes. Had a little bit of mishap yesterday, burned down a pile of wood and accidentally killed some leaves. But hopefully it'll be okay. Here are our squashes. There's one flower there. We've gotten a couple decent sized squash, but right now just the flowers. Oh, there's one zucchini there, about 4 inches long. Nothing major yet. And then our one little volunteer corn plant. And then obviously we have our quite a few buttercups here, over there. You see it down there. Just letting them grow on the outside, but that's about the size of a softball. Pretty decent size. Then down to our brassicas and peppers. Now, I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to plant these nearby each other, but we didn't know that at the beginning, so something to remember for next year. Decent sized broccoli, another decent sized broccoli, and then a little tiny broccoli. Something interesting is where we had our garden last year, not sure if you can see this, but these 2 rows are from compost. These 2 rows are where we had our garden last year. We had a small garden here, and then this entire garden here was one long garden. And in between, we knew that we were gonna combine the gardens to make a bigger garden. So I laid down the grass clippings, any sort of compost, any sort of manure that I had from the chickens, put them down here, let the chickens scratch in it. And now these plants are very, very healthy compared to these plants. I mean, these plants are still healthy, but it's just the compost and all the nutrients from the soil went into these plants and are doing very well compared to these. Here we've got some bell peppers. This one's got a little funky finger or something on it. Don't know exactly what that is. Some more bells. We've harvested a couple, and then we got some tiny ones forming here. We've got our Brussels. You can see deep in there. Our Brussels are starting to form. And then we got some more bell peppers. And then this is I think these are cayenne peppers. It's starting to turn red. Here's one that's almost fully ripe. Some more broccoli, similar size to the before. And our jalapenos. Those are doing very well, very fruitful. We got 4 plants of those. And our habaneros. Sorry, we only have 2 plants of jalapenos. We got 2 plants of habaneros. As soon as those start to turn different color, I mean, there are lots and lots of little habaneros that are starting to form. As soon as those start to be big, we'll have lots and lots of hot peppers. Here we have our more leafy greens and herbs. This is, I believe, this is Swiss chard, or maybe that's Swiss chard. Maybe they're 2 different types of Swiss chard. Not 100% sure on those. That wasn't my endeavor. And then I'm not sure what these 2 herbs are, but they're more like salad greens. We got our beautiful purple basil. I mean, this bush is massive. We've never had basil grow before like this. And this is even bigger. This is our cinnamon basil. I mean, there is tons and tons of leaves here. And I do know this one. This is Burnette's. It tastes like a cucumber lemon, and I'm not 100% sure. Chicken in the background squawking. Not 100% sure what type of Burnette's it is. I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but it tastes like lemon and cucumber. Not a big fan of cucumbers, but actually tastes pretty good. And here we've got one little lonely tomato plant that we planted here from one of the seeds that we started, but this is where we harvested our garlic. So we got that growing, and then these, I believe, are some cabbages that were planted, I believe. Maybe they were volunteers. So that's the main garden. Then here comes to the compost box. Now, these two that have tomato cages were ones that we had planted from our seeds that we bought. And all this greenery is all volunteer. So, not sure what these are. I'm not sure if they're Juliette's, because they're kind of shaped weird. And then this is probably a cherry tomato. Not sure what it is. That's part of the fun part about growing volunteer tomato plants. You never know what kind you're gonna get. Now here, you got some big tomatoes and then really deep in here. Those are, almost the size of a baseball. They're getting really big. I don't know. I just kind of let this grow wild, put a few stakes in it, and see what happens. I mean, if it takes no effort, don't really water it too much, and if we can get a couple tomatoes out of it, I'd say it's worth it. And then here's another look at this one. Now this is a Brad's Atomic tomato. You can see there that it's starting to get purple. So that's interesting. Hopefully we get a lot. There's not too many tomatoes on it right now, but we're getting somewhere with these. And this is late July. I believe it's the 29th today. So coming towards the end of summer, at least. So should be getting some tomatoes. Here is our rhubarb. This is all lots of stalks of rhubarb in there. Pretty big, planted in between our hostas. Here's our apple trees. Well, one apple tree, the rest are down there. And then our pear trees are on the other side of the yard. You can see them there. And that brings us down here to the mint. This here is our chocolate mint. I really like it. It kind of tastes like an Andes bar because it's chocolate and minty. It's pretty darn good. And then I believe this is our spearmint, and then our regular mint. I'm not sure which one's which. Well, I can find out. That smells like spearmint. Yeah, I think that one's regular mint and that one's spearmint. And our apple tree brings us down here to our potatoes. I've already gotten a decent amount of potatoes harvested, but look at it, it's just a sea of green. And then right here at this post, you can kind of see in there all those stringy things. Those are hops. So that'll be fun this year to try and grow some hops, brew some beer, give it to friends and family that are going to be brewing beer. Here's another sunflower and a sunflower there. So we've got three sunflowers. Didn't see that one till just now. 3 sunflowers in here. I sprinkled some flower seeds in here, just kind of seeing what would happen, not realizing that sunflowers and potatoes were both heavy feeders and that you probably should not do that together. So something to remember for next year, but I had already planted them and they were already growing, so we'll just see what happens. And then when I had sprinkled chicken manure in here in the spring, obviously they had some tomatoes. There's the tomato. Tomato and potato leaves look similar to me. I think this is a tomato. To the volunteer tomato from the chicken manure. So that'll be fun. Get some more tomatoes in. They're too deep in there that it's not really worth pulling out. I'm gonna rip up a bunch of potatoes and didn't catch it in time, so have some volunteer tomatoes. Here are, I think they are Queen Annie yellow raspberry, and we planted that this year, and we've tried for a bunch of years and haven't really ever been able to get them to grow, so that's exciting that we're getting our raspberries to grow. And then here are some white grapes that we planted this year. Another first time. Never been able to try really grapes, and it's gonna be exciting. Here are a close look at the pear trees, and these just came with the house, so you can see here there are quite a bit of pears on them. Doing pretty well, except for we got some sort of fungus on it. So I have no clue what this fungus is. I'm gonna try and see if I can Google it, figure out what it is, but it is affecting all of the trees. Let me take you over to the currants. These currants I got as just a bare root this year, and they're actually doing fairly decently. The currants, I believe they are red currants, but for a bare root to grow that big, I mean, probably about a foot tall or something, here in the shade. This wasn't the best spot. My house, the sun, to the neighbor's house, not really the best choice on planting there, but you can't change the past. So let me just take you up to the deck garden, and then that's pretty much going to be the July garden tour. Here we have some pepper plants. I believe these are more hot peppers that we had started from seed. They're still a little bit small. Maybe we'll bring them inside this winter because they're still, you know, only 4 inches tall. So gonna be quite a while till we get some peppers off of those. And we have our chives, 2 little pots there. We got a lime tree, that's a dwarf lime. And then here's the lemon. They both start green, and you see here there's lots of little lemons growing. There's another size one, about the size of a little bit smaller than a quarter. And here is our basil. This is doing extremely well. And then there's a little bit of parsley mixed in there. Can't tell if you can see that, but yeah, that's doing pretty well. And some more mint, some eucalyptus, and some flowers that aren't doing too hot. A hibiscus that we think is probably dead, so, but still hope is left there. To the other side, here are the onions that we're growing. I mean, this one is massive head. Planning on saving seeds from this one, but onions growing in there, some weeds, some more chives, some house plants, pomegranate. There's no, oh no, there's a little bit of one growing. Whoops, right there. Yep. Or no, that's not a pomegranate, sorry, that's an orange. We got some more purple basil, I believe. This one It's a lot harder to water, keep west, so these are not doing as hot as the garden basil. Some more regular basil. We're just going to bring these in the winter, and so that's why they're in pots instead of the garden. And here's a volunteer tomato plant. This was all potting mix, so I do not know how a tomato plant got in with the flowers, but a tomato plant got in with the flowers, and we didn't use any garden soil that I know of. I think it was all potting mix, so no clue on how that happened. Some more basil. Let's see. Yep, this is the cinnamon basil. It's got a interesting taste. There's no words to describe it, just cinnamon. I enjoy it. Then we got a little bit of thing of parsley that we're going to be bringing in for the winter, and then some more mint for boiling potatoes, mojitos, that type of thing. So yeah, that pretty much wraps up the garden tour for July 2020. And thank you. If you like this video, like it, subscribe it, and if I get some good feedback, I'll make sure to put more gardening videos. Thank you, and goodbye.